Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2023 Minnesota Community Forestry Award. And welcome to Tree Trust. This is our main headquarters here. There may be a random saw or something going while we're here, so I apologize in advance. I tried to tell them to knock it off for the next hour, but you know, things have to get done. So we're really happy to have you all here, invite you into the space. I was just telling Jeremy, we opened up here in 2019 after lots of years in random places of various quality, and this is like we grew up. We're all like adults now here at Tree Trust. We have like matching office furniture and carpet. It's all really fancy. So we're really happy to have MinStack hosting here today. We're going to go through the Community Forestry Awards and also, you know, maybe inspire you as you're sitting here to think about who you might want to nominate next year, because this is a process that we had to take a little bit of a pause on for a couple of years, just for lots of reasons.
For you to get moved into the building.
For me to get moved into the building. So it is something that we think is really important and valuable to communicating the great work that's happening in our state. And you know, we can't award people without nomination. So please, you know, when you're out there, maybe you're talking to a citizen or a resident who's just really jazzed about trees and they want to do a project. You know, maybe that's the thing that we'll be amplifying next year. So with that, just small logistics. If anyone needs to use the restroom, you're just going to walk down to the entrance where you came in, take a right and then another right. It's kind of a big square, or if you're interested in walking through the shop, you can do that, but do that at your own peril. In which case you just go through this, it's like through this door and then around the shop, and then the restroom is just on the left. So with that, I'll turn it over to our amazing awards chair, Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Berger. For those of you that don't know me, I've been doing this for 500 years, and maybe this will be my last one. I don't know. But anyway, well, thank you, Tree Trust, for having us here today. We've been trying to figure out how to present Minnesota Community Forestry Awards in a meaningful manner. And here it is. Hopefully this feels meaningful and spectacular and inspiring to me. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna present our 4 awards, and then afterwards we're gonna make them sit on these fancy chairs up here, so it feels really official, kind of like a CNN rapid fire interview session. And you guys, while you go, think of some really great questions, you know, something deep hitting, and then we can learn even more about these amazing people and their programs. So that's gonna happen. And then we're gonna have lunch.
And then we're gonna have lunch.
For those of you that sign up. So thank you to everyone that comes. Thank you to Jenny Gustafson for supporting Ryan for years. Anyway, we'll go through that later. And so for our first award, Diana Friesen from City Minnesota. Take it away.
You have to talk loud because there are some people on my list.
Sure.
They can't hear you. You have to hear me.
All right, the first award is our Innovation Award, and this award is granted to somebody who's done a project that's maybe outside of the norm, something that's really innovative, and I'm happy to give this to Green Minneapolis.
So come on, Green Minneapolis. And Michaela, also add to apparel are all these cords, so just
Yes.
walk carefully around.
There's only so much.
Okay, and then
Yeah, so Green Minneapolis leads the Twin Cities Climate Resiliency Initiative, public-private partnership focused on significantly expanding the urban tree canopy across Minneapolis and the 7-county Twin Cities metro area. It's a 20-year vision to increase the metro's area tree canopy by 30% through planting and maintaining these trees. The initiative also includes identifying new funding sources for tree planting and maintenance, including establishing Minnesota's first urban tree carbon offset program, working with city forest credits. This project includes 23,755 city trees planted by the Minneapolis Park and Rec Board between 2019 and 2021. The project is estimated to store 48,865 metric tons of carbon over a 25-year duration of the project. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Really cool.
Thank you so much for this recognition for our innovative work in community forestry through Green Minneapolis's Twin Cities Climate Resiliency Initiative. I'm Michaela New, Director of Programs and Operations at Green Minneapolis, and I lead our work on community forestry. Green Minneapolis was established in 2014, and our earlier projects include development of the Commons Park across from the US Bank Stadium, project that transformed a sea of parking lots into 4-acre green oasis, including hundreds of trees. We also partnered with the city of Minneapolis to raise money for the renovation of PB Plaza, which included the preservation of dozens of 50-year-old trees and the plantings of many more. We currently operate and program PB Plaza on behalf of the city of Minneapolis, and a quick shameless plug. We have hundreds of free events that you can participate in over the summer. Check out pbplaza.com for our full schedule. But back to why we're here today. Green Minneapolis launched our Twin Cities Climate Resiliency Initiative in 2021, and it is a public-private partnership focused on significantly expanding the urban tree canopy across Minneapolis and the 7-county Twin Cities metro area. It is a 20-year vision looking to expand the metro area tree canopy by 30%. That's planting and maintaining millions and millions of trees. And the initiative includes identifying new funding sources for tree planting and maintenance. It's a very ambitious program, and we're not doing it alone. Many locally focused environmental organizations have joined on and are participating in our coalition. This includes the Nature Conservancy, Trust for Public Land, Minneapolis Park Foundation, Friends of the Mississippi River, Mississippi Park Connection, Mississippi Watershed Management Organization, and Hennepin County. We have corporate sponsors and supporters, including Target, Winslow Capital, Sagility, Xcel Energy, and the Minneapolis Regional Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to all of our coalition partners. Through this initiative, Green Minneapolis is working to identify gaps and barriers to the growth of the urban forest and seeks new models and solutions to address the issues in partnership with our tree planting partners. For example, last year we worked with the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board to secure $1 million of ARPA funds to increase tree planting across Minneapolis. And this year we registered as a lobbyist and started building awareness of our work and hope to do so more in these coming years to find and direct funding for more state funding to urban forestry. We're also pursuing private investments and grants for trees on behalf of our tree planting partners. And this is done through our Urban Forest Fund, where donations go directly to our tree planting partners for continued tree planting and maintenance. But one of the most innovative ways Green Minneapolis is supporting the expansion of the urban forest is through the establishment of the first urban tree carbon offset program in the state. And we wouldn't be here today accepting this award without the encouragement of our champion partners, many who are in the room today, who supported us through the development and implementation of this program. First, we want to recognize Winslow Capital, who gave Green Minneapolis a grant to explore the feasibility of establishing such a program. Winslow Capital became our founding corporate partner of the initiative and established a multi-year commitment with Green Minneapolis to purchase offsets, as well as providing philanthropic support for the initiative. Thank you, Winslow Capital. Thank you, Jill. Second, we want to recognize the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board, who was our pilot partner in the establishment of the Urban Tree Carbon Offset Program. That's the project you heard of the over 23,000 trees planted and registered. Staff worked tirelessly to support the application and legal agreements necessary to participate in the program, resulting in the verification of the first urban tree carbon offset program in Minnesota and the first, not only the first, but also the largest urban tree carbon offset program in the US to date. Thank you, Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board, for taking this week with us, Jeremy, Philip, Ralph. And we're excited to announce that our second project in partnership with Park Board received verification and is expecting issuance of credits this week. We also want to recognize Hennepin County, who this spring became our second tree planting partner. With Hennepin County, we are exploring new partnership models for expanding the urban tree canopy, including an innovative partnership with MnDOT to increase the number of trees planted and maintained along the freeway right-of-ways. And by leveraging partners and partnerships like this, we can make real progress in expanding the urban tree canopy. Thank you, Hennepin County. Thank you, Dustin. Lastly, I wanted to thank the Green Minneapolis Board, and specifically the vision and commitment of our board chair, David Wilson, who is literally walking in the door right now. Thank you, David. Our board's commitment to our community and the expansion of the urban forest is inspiring. Thank you, David, and board members of Green Minneapolis for your support today. And thank you, board member Jay Poles, for joining us. Green Minneapolis is honored to be here today. Thank you again for this recognition. Thank you, Davey Tree Company, for the nomination. We at Green Minneapolis are excited to be working alongside all of you to grow our urban tree canopy. Thank you.
I forgot one of my thoughts. Yeah, sir.
How seriously do you want me to take this photo?
Oh, why am I?
Because it'd be nice to have a photo with the two of you and the word innovation award instead of the word exit behind you. But I can let it go.
We can save that after.
Yeah,
Wanna
we
do-
can do that up, do that up. And Diane, would you like to talk about this award piece? Or Handle, do you want Handle to do it? It's between the spot. Well, no, there's no pressure at all today. We're all just friends, tree friends.
So these award pieces are made from ash wood that was milled and processed at. So we have these kiln dried and milled and yeah, as part of our urban wood utilization program. They are treated with a food safe mineral oil. So if anybody wants to serve charcuterie boards, they're safe for that. So,
Thank you very much. Okay. So our next award. Thank you, thank you. I was supposed to do that and show you the fun pictures and then I couldn't find it. So, Ryan Gustafson, come on up. So Ryan Gustafson was nominated, by Jake McDougal and Travis McDonald and McDougal, for a volunteer service award. And I think they were inspired by, not only does Ryan do an awesome job at work every day, making people's trees better, and educating people about trees, doing all the jobs that an arborist would have, consulting, PhD technician, a lot of, environmental consulting and directing and all those things. But, so that's all. But then he never stops. So he also brings it to being the den leader for the Boy Scouts and getting his sons involved and teaching all their kids. Like, I mean, what's better than like if you run out of an audience, build an audience to teach about trees, right? And so here's some really important words that I'm stealing. But when I saw this nomination, I said, well, after our super duper fantastical Festival of Trees and Minnesota Tree Climbing Championship at Sturgis Park on the beautiful shores of Buffalo Lake. On a beautiful, I couldn't have been beautiful over the weekend. It was so great, gorgeous trees. If you've never been to Sturgis Park, which I'm sure you have, because I'm sure you were there. Holy Pass is that a great place. And we can thank Ryan for bringing it there, because great trees yeah, I just can't say enough about how spectacular it was. And you got so many different groups involved, and it was just a remarkable day, wasn't it, guys? It's the best tree day ever.
Great.
So here's some other words too, but I mean, obviously he's got a great resume. Been doing this for 15 years. I'm gonna see if I can do it. Ryan is outstanding in his contribution to forestry and his relentless approach to volunteering, education, and community support. Ryan's time away from work is limited. He still manages to make time to engage in his professional community in the Twin Cities and way over in Buffalo too. That's exactly what it is. His ability to grow agricultural understanding in all facets of his life is what makes him the best nominee. He lives to care for trees and the people's trees benefits. As a board certified master arborist, Ryan leads a service focused life that we could all strive to replicate. And he's gonna talk for the next 10 minutes about how you can all replicate that life. Congratulations, newly president. All the questions now, he's gonna just talk for 10 minutes and then we'll have a question. No pressure.
Yeah, I don't have 10 minutes worth of speaking. I don't have a speech prepared or anything like that. I wanted to do a big thank you to my wife. She puts up with all of my volunteering. Last night I had an MSA Programs and Education Committee meeting, which is from 6:30 to 8 o'clock at night. And then it's on some Mondays, it's a park board meeting and Cub Scout meetings and stuff like that. So she puts up with all my time away from home volunteering and time away from home from work. So thank you, Jenny. For those of you who don't know, I am currently the vice president of the Minnesota Society of Arboriculture. I was kind of thinking back of how what got me involved with MSA, and it's mostly kind of started back in college at Stevens Point. I got invited to a Student Society of Arboriculture meeting and kind of got me hooked. And at that time, Jacob Rigg, former MSA president, was president of the SSA, Student Society of Arboriculture, kind of got me into it. I eventually became president of that. And then once I got into my career and had time, I got involved with MSA and have been involved for a number of years. Looking forward to becoming president next year. And then, yeah, the tree climbing event in Buffalo is kind of the pinnacle so far. Hopefully not. I have more to come. But there's a lot of people that brought that together. I just kind of threw the idea out there to George and Lynn, who organized a climbing event. Say, hey, come out to Buffalo. I think you guys will like it. They loved it, and then everything just kind of fell together. So, yeah. So, and then thank you, Jacob, for nominating me, and yeah, Davey being supportive of me doing all the volunteer stuff outside of work as well. So, that's all I got.
Hi, good afternoon, good morning, everyone, hi there. My name is Karen Sarbacker. I am a forestry arborist at Minneapolis Park and Rec Board, and I also serve as information officer for Minnesota Society of Arboriculture. It's kind of a special thing for me to be able to present this award, being an employee. I was not involved in the outstanding projects that we are awarding, but I do want to recognize outstanding work that we do. The Outstanding Project Award was nominated by Ralph Sievert for a 90-inch diameter cottonwood tree that was safely removed utilizing in-house crew, a crane. It was a multiple-day project. It was very technical, and it was a lot of work from what I heard and from the pictures that I've seen. This project demonstrates the challenges that municipal arborists face in arboriculture, and also utilize the expertise of staff. And I think it is a really good demonstration of the importance of training, a lot of which happens through MSA sponsored events. So I think we have one more slide. I just want to also recognize in the bottom right corner, the arborists, the crew leads, the MEOs, the foreman, and the tree inspector, who are all involved in this really large project. So Jeff Dostal, Rob Raymond, Sean Abrams, Nick Greeby, AJ Lang, Juan Dominguez, Alex Platts, Brian Bull, Stephen Parnell, Brian Mahoney, Dave Grout, Paul Evanson, Dan Dunham, and Eric Meyer. A lot of people involved in this on the ground level, not to mention all the organization that it took, in the office and managing all of these things. So without further ado, to present the award for outstanding project to MPRB. Thank you very much.
it's kind of odd to think we're getting to work for cutting a tree down, but it was quite the project to do. With me today is Philip, Jeremy, and Danny from our forestry office, but it's great Carrick is here representing the folks that actually did the work. Because we have very skilled arborists that did a lot of rigging. My role was, do we have the money to do this? And I said, yes, that was my role. Not many people realize, 90-inch cottonwood, when Theodore Worth and I planted that tree, it was not nearly that size, but it grew very quickly. And but yes, the folks that did the work, the picture there on the left, that's actually like a 20-some inch diameter piece of the tree. And I just managed to get there at the right time to take the picture. So anyway, yeah, we're quite proud of our folks that did the work and all the effort they put into it. I think it was little over 3 days to actually do the complete removals.
What was the initial call?
Oh, the initial call was that a 27-inch branch fell off onto a garage. And the first step was getting it off the garage. So that was involving, the crane was the biggest cost, but yeah, getting off the garage was all the roping and rigging and all that. But later was when the crane was brought in to bring the whole thing down in pieces. But yeah, it was on the garage, and we managed to get it off without damaging the garage any further than the tree actually hitting it. Yeah. Ready for question? Yeah.
All right, I am excited to announce our last recipient today for the Outstanding Volunteer Service Award, and that goes to Gordon Hanson. In the words of the person who nominated him, he is a tremendous advocate and a super volunteer. Gordon does a whole lot. He's a tree care advisor where he teaches others about the importance of trees. He also serves as the tree care advisor rep on the staff board of directors. He's a master gardener, which he has been for almost 30 years. He's a tree trust branch manager on all tree trust events.
All of them.
He teaches novice volunteers how to properly plant trees, teaches children about the importance of trees, the benefits of them. He's also the chair of the Friends of Wood Lake Nature Center Board in Richfield, and he's an active community member in his hometown of Richfield. So pretty amazing. I'm just going to read a little bit from the nomination. So Gordon has volunteered consistently at the Wood Lake Nature Center for years and has been at most of the tree planting events I've ever participated in at Tree Trust. He's bailed me out of a pinch or two when I was at my time at Tree Trust, so thank you. Beyond serving in his own community of Richfield, he travels around the Twin Cities metro area to help community and school planting events. He's knowledgeable, enthusiastic, and always ready to help someone learn about trees. So thank you so much, Gordon. Come on up. I'll give you
What I love about getting the pictures of Gordon Hanson is that you can pick him out of the crowd really, really fast.
He's smiling.
In his element, so good.
His shot. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank everybody for this award, and I can actually trace my fascination with trees back to being like a little kid. I remember that when the Gurney catalog would come to our house, I remember paging through the Gurney catalog and looking at all the different trees they had listed in the catalog and dreaming of wanting to order them and go out and plant them. But of course, we lived in Minneapolis with a small Minneapolis yard, and Dad took care of all that stuff. So of course, I couldn't order a tree and plant it because Dad took care of all the landscaping. But I kept that fascination. And then I also remember as a little kid once when I learned about ginkgo trees and, you know, how cool ginkgo trees were, that they lived when the dinosaurs did. And of course, you know, as a little kid, boy, that sounded so fascinating. So I remember writing a letter to the Minneapolis Park Board, and I you know, I probably wrote it in like a big block, you know, little kid style letters. And I don't remember the words I used, but it was probably something to the effect of like, you know, ginkgo trees are cool. You should plant ginkgo trees. You know, and I mailed it off to the park board. And then I was just so fascinated because I got a return letter on letterhead. And as a little kid, I thought getting an official letter, you know, and being addressed as Mr. Hanson on official letterhead was just so cool. So I opened up the letter, and the letter explained that, well, the Minneapolis Park Board does plant ginkgo trees. And they referred to, they mentioned the biggest and best ginkgo tree that at that time they had, which was down in the Rose Garden near Lake Harriet. And it was this magnificent ginkgo tree. And so it was fall of the year. I remember my parents took me down there to the Rose Garden near Lake Harriet, and it was dusk, so it was getting dark. And I remember hopping out of the car and running to this tree that I felt was probably the ginkgo tree, and reaching down, and the leaves had fallen, and reaching down and lifting up the leaves, and they were ginkgo leaves. And it was just like, you know, finding a pot of gold or something. It was just amazing to me that I had found this. And I always loved that tree. That tree many years ago went down in a tornado. And I also remember when there was the news that the tornado went over Lake Harriet and went into the Rose Garden. I remember hearing about that. And I remember I went down, and this was by this time I was probably a teenager, maybe early 20s. I don't remember exactly when that happened, but I remember going down there, and it never dawned on me that the ginkgo tree could have been toppled in the tornado. And I remember the minute I saw it, it was just, you know, it was just this like most heartbreaking moment that tree had toppled in the tornado. But so I still dream of planting trees, and well, now I live in Richfield, and of course Richfield, of course, also has small yards, so you only have so much room for trees. In what I know, I talked with Diana and Karen about it. One of my favorite trees in my lot Richfield is my chin-fin oak, which is a tree that you don't see everywhere. And I have it in my yard, and my son, who's 25 now, in my years of volunteering in tree things, he thinks all this tree stuff is the most stupid thing you can imagine. and he just, you know, he just thinks that's the case. And I remember with I had a tree service. Actually, it's the company that Valerie, that your husband works with. I had them out working on a big old mature locust tree I have in the backyard one year. And I was coming home from work one day when they were just kind of wrapping up work, and one of the guys on the job, he was saying like, "Wow, cool chin-fin oak you have." And so we were out there talking about it, and I looked, I could see my son in like the front window of the house, like looking out the window. And I walked in the house, and he said, "You finally found another geek to talk about that." But I'll just wrap up that, you know, my son though, and he still brings this up though, and you may strip me of my award when I tell you this, because we were out in Los Angeles 7-8 years ago. And I don't know, I had this like a slip of the mind, and I referred to a palm tree as a pine tree. And my son said, "And you call yourself an expert on trees." So with that final story, I just want to thank everybody for this award. That's good about going on a tree trust tree projects. Is I have no more room in my yard where I could legitimately plant a tree. It gives me that opportunity to have a much wider yard and to go out and plant trees all over the metro. And thank you so much.
Okay. That was like the best half hour I've ever.
So like, imagine yourself as a third grader planting a tree with Gordon. Gordon is like he's gonna rope in every kid in that classroom that he's working with, because he's passionate about trees.
So we should ask, like, when we're interviewing candidates for jobs, do you know Gordon Hanson?
Right.
They probably will.
Yeah.
Okay, so now's the fun. We've made this up. So if all of you that won awards would like to come and sit in one of these fine chairs and then get ready for your rapid fire questions. And I hope that the rest of you have stored your questions, maybe in notes with your phone or just burning questions you have. So come on. Gordon, Ryan, you know who you are. Well, you can bring friends if you want, like, because look at, they put 6 chairs up.
Oh, yeah.
So, well, if you bring another friend up, then that is great too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk.
Yeah. Ask annoying questions. I would just like to say, I remember Gordon's letter.
Okay. There you go.
Oh, how old was that cottonwood? Did somebody count the rings?
No, I don't believe anyone did. Yeah, I don't think, I don't recall anyone doing that, other than being 90 inches. So, yeah.
Was it on public property?
It was on an odd alley easement. Typically alleys are not our thing, but this was, enough of it was in the right of way. To worry about it.
What would you guess its age to be?
Oh, I couldn't even guess, because it grows so fast. I don't know if anyone has more cottonwood experience. Yeah.
I have a question. Can we go out of order?
Oh.
I have a question for Ryan and Gordon about, your volunteer experiences and things like that. What I'd love to know or have you share is what makes you keep showing up to these things? Like what keeps that drive going to keep showing up for trees and for your community in those ways? Should pick whoever wants to go first.
I think just like being able to bring in new people and teach people about trees and get new people involved is what keeps me coming back.
Yeah, it's fun to see that enthusiasm with new people and sometimes I see that enthusiasm, just kind of spark in people of all ages, all the way from like little kids to adults and seniors and it's fun to see that spark happen and then I think, well, with the tree trust projects, it's just so fun. You walk in the morning and just in a few hours later, you see this area that's been kind of transformed. So I think it's volunteer work. It's one of the most rewarding things to do because you see a tangible difference in what you've done.
Go ahead, you're next.
First of all, thank you for reaching out. So far, I've not been able to make headway in convincing our city leaders to work with you, but I'm curious if you have other clients that you've been able to bring into your program beyond Minneapolis.
Yes, well, I mentioned Hennepin County. Hennepin County has entered a first carbon offset project with Green Minneapolis, and we hope to do so annually. And that's the same with the park board. We hope to enter projects annually. We are chatting with and meeting with additional planting partners across the metro area and are interested in starting those conversations. There's some in the room that we've chatted with. I'm planning to City of Minnetonka that just initial conversations of might it be possible to partner with Green Minneapolis? Might there be a project that could lead to a carbon offset program? And I'll be happy to continue conversations with you all.
I have a question. So the carbon offset program that generates money based on trees being planted, correct?
Essentially, so trees being planted can be registered into the carbon offset program. The carbon sequestered is quantified, generates carbon credits from the quantification of carbon. Green Minneapolis then sells those carbon offsets, and those proceeds go back to our planting partner.
Okay, that was my question, is what happens to that money? So basically it just is sustaining planting more trees.
That's our goal, yes, that is our model as a nonprofit, to have those proceeds go back directly to tree planting and maintenance.
To encourage projects,
And maybe repeat the question since you're closer to the mic.
Oh, sure. The question is about tree preservation projects and are you thinking appetite from partners to register those types of projects or for buyers to buy those kinds of credits? Okay.
Especially, I think that.
Great. So through the city forest credits carbon registry that we work with, there is also a preservation protocol that we could engage. We have yet to do so, but we're open to doing that. And that would mean that we work with our municipal partners to basically protect land that is threatened for development. That project would then be a viable carbon offset project and carbon offsets could be generated. On the buyer side, the interest is that the credits are local, whether it be trees planted locally or trees preserved locally. And we haven't been asked specifically for credits that relate to tree preservation. Our partners are very excited in the fact that their funds are being returned to local projects and that the credit represents something, again, very local that is helping the community in many ways.
How do you account for tree mortality with those credits, or what is your guideline for like a successful tree? Do you measure like the first 5 years and assume it's established at that point, or how does that work?
The carbon offset program is a 25-year project duration, and at the beginning of the program, we do account for mortality. And so far in our projects, we've been using a mortality rate of 20%. So that's already deducted from the ultimate amount of credits that we can sell, so that we aren't overselling. Ultimately, then through the project, throughout that 25-year project duration, there are different points in time that we would be checking tree health. Essentially, is that tree still alive? And can we still sell the credits that that tree represents? And so we will do doing those checks and balances over time. It's about 6 times throughout the project. And at the end, if that mortality rate of 20% has been exceeded, we will just then lessen our credit pool and not sell those credits as they aren't being represented by a valid tree. So there's checks and balances over time. We incorporate mortality rate in at the beginning, and then we adjust along the way.
Do you have any idea what your mortality rate is?
I look to planting partners to ask about mortality rate, and we have utilized that 20% mortality rate, though I believe we're adding a large buffer to some of the actual mortality rates that you all experience, just to ensure that we're not, again, selling more credits than are viable. Jeremy or Dustin, you want to make a comment on that? Or Ralph, maybe?
Yeah.
Well,
we like, it's like Jerry said, we like to think about it at the survival rate, as opposed to the mortality rate. Just a coffee cup half full type of person,
I like that.
people, but we're generally around 90% survivability, and I think especially over it's 25 years of the project. I think a 20% trends very well with the ongoing. We're, I think, 8+ years and ongoing survivability study, and that lines up really well with just where we're at for survivability. So that 20%, we were asked about that earlier in the process, and it aligns with where we're at over multiple years. How you get a little bit each year, we decline, but yeah, that's where it's at. And we keep tracking it. So if something changes, we could tweak that if we find our survivability isn't lining up with what's already been put into the program. But that's so far seems to align really well, and we do that survival study every year. So we've got ongoing testing.
Can that tweak go both ways? Like if they keep it at 10%, then are there additional credits paid out at the end? Like for the 10% that didn't? Okay.
Yep. At the end of the project, then you consider the actual mortality rate of the project overall, the survivorship of the project overall, and then credits are either withheld or further are released.
And the little bit I know about how those projects work, it's not all the credits aren't paid out all at once at the beginning. It's kind of released over a number of years. So if there is, they could release or hold back credits, in future years if there's greater survivability or not.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Ralph. What'd you do with the wood?
It was.
How much?
It basically got turned into wood chips.
Yeah,
And what were the wood chips used for?
mulching. Yeah.
And I know you asked early on that you were asked if there was money for it. What was the total balance of the bill?
The crane itself was like 30,000. And then the cost of everything in-house was about 10,000. But our estimate was it would have been probably about double that to have contracted it because of where it was at.
Would you say that was probably your most expensive removal at MPRB?
Probably most expensive, but I think the biggest thing was the largest removal that anyone ever really had on any kind of, even elms on boulevards back in the heyday were never that big, so. And all the obstacles around it, I think that was the biggest part.
Wasn't tree replanted there or an tight space?
No, because it would primarily have been on private property to replant it. And I do have to follow up on how long that took to get that stump out.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever think of utilizing helicopters instead of a crane? Given that the excessive amount of, how much it's gonna cost,
Our folks were very comfortable with the whole crane process and had done that before. One of our crew leaders, Nick Greavy, was who actually had given crane training to MSA audiences at one point. We kind of relied on his expertise in terms of actually getting the use of the crane and positioning it and all that good stuff. The other interesting part was contacting the homes that were there and telling people, stay out of your second floor, just to be safe. Yeah.
So what was the reaction of the neighborhood to the loss of that tree? Was it?
It seemed to be more of oh good, because that thing scared us.
Okay.
Yeah, as opposed to we didn't get anybody like chaining themselves to it, which we had that before, but no, it was really more of we feel much more comfortable now that it's gone, especially when the chunk fell in the garage. And I think there had been a lot of anticipation at some point something bad was gonna happen from this.
Is there any talk about removal?
There was, but the structure was so compromised. Once that limb came off and you could sort of see what was going on, that's when it was decided that you couldn't go any further with keeping it around.
I remember some of the arborists that worked on it, I think after they worked on the removal, especially from, as you're doing your removal, you see so much. And I think I remember some of the quotes coming back, because that was the most guilt-free removal I've ever done. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, because the integrity was so compromised, yeah.
Are there animals in it?
Didn't get no flying squirrel in the face or anything like that. Didn't have any reports of that, so, no.
Ryan, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Over the course of your career, have you ever thought about doing anything other than trees? Or is there something about the tree care world that, it's just kind of like lock you in and you're in it a minute?
Not really. I've always thought if I never found trees, what would I do? And on math sounds kind of fun. I never really.
Yeah.
Numbers. But no, I've never considered
Being an accountant.
Yeah. I know it's so weird, but I've never pursued that, so I probably would have tried it and hated it, so. But no, I've just kind of stuck with it and I've really enjoyed trees, working with trees. All different aspects of trees, from, writing management plans for municipalities, to doing consulting with homeowners and teaching them about their trees, don't want to care for the trees, it's all been very enjoyable.
I got a question for Gordon along with clients. What stopped you from going into the trees? And just volunteering?
I guess when I was young and going in college, I don't know, for whatever reason, it never dawned on me to pursue education in that direction. I guess I have a hard time putting my finger on exactly why, but I didn't. It's like, I guess professionally, I've always kind of worked in a communications capacity. And it's been, I know I've always shared with people, it's always ironic. It's like always the people who hire me are the people who have like no interest in what their business is. I know I shared with you earlier, I work for a company, we sell replacement parts for vehicles. And I'm the most non-mechanical guy you're ever gonna meet, so it's kind of an odd fit for me, but I guess it's one of those things, if I could turn the clock back, maybe I would go a different path.
Gordon, you're such a good storyteller. I really appreciated your story about the ginkgo, and is that still one of your favorite trees? What are some of your other tree favorites?
I think three of my real tree favorites are ginkgos are still one of them. I think they're pretty cool trees. I would also say chinquapin oak, since I got my chinquapin oak.
How big is that tree now?
It's, I started as a little seedling and I could not find locally, I could not find anybody that would sell a chinquapin oak. And so I found a nursery in Michigan that sold seedlings, and I ordered from a nursery in Michigan that had about a seedling about this tall. And the first one that I planted got mowed down by a rabbit right away. So I ordered a second one and I put chicken wire around it. And it's probably 25, 30 feet tall now. And so the tree is doing marvelously. And so it's kind of my pride to have this chinquapin oak that's not a real common tree that you'll see here in the Twin Cities. And before I planted it, I remember I talked with Gary Johnson about it, and I said, hey, how do you think a chinquapin oak would do here in the Twin Cities? And he said, oh, I think they do just great. He says nobody plants them because they're kind of hard to transplant, is what he said. And then I think two of my other favorite trees are I like the chelpa trees. I just like those big leaves, and I like the flowers, the bean pods. I know a lot of people hate the bean pods, but I think they're decorative. And I like dog and redwood trees. And I remember when we were out in Boston many years ago, 10 years ago or so, in a park in Boston, there's this most magnificent dawn redwood tree because it's just huge and it's a towering tree. And so I think those four trees are some of my favorites.
I'm David Wilson, from Minneapolis, and related to ginkgo trees, when the city of Minneapolis developed the Commons Park across from the Bank Stadium, there were two trees that were saved as part of the park design, and one of them is a ginkgo that was in a little pocket park that had been part of the Star Tribune building. So if you haven't seen that ginkgo, it's a beautiful ginkgo tree, and you should check it out.
Actually, I do know the tree you're referring to. And I'm so thankful that it was saved, because I remember passing that tree going from the parking ramp to Twins games at the Metrodome. And I was saying, well, now there's another magnificent ginkgo tree. And I remember when they tore down the Metrodome and they were going to rebuild that park, I was saying, I wonder if they're going to cut that tree down.
So it almost got cut down. So Minneapolis was participating on the design of the park, and the city had hired a landscape architect, not from town, they were from San Francisco. And the first design had those, there's also a nice maple next to it. Those two trees were taken out in the plan, and so we actually objected and went to the city council member, Jacob Fry, at the time, and said, those two trees from the state. And so Jacob intervened and saved those two trees.
Well, that's great work, because yeah, I know that tree. That is a nice tree.
Are we done?
We're at time, unless there are comments.
Not really. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being phenomenal. Wonderful. Thanks for everyone that supports these people and their programs. Round of applause for you, Jen. Taking time out of your busy July schedules today, it's a day outside, you can't even say you came in, it's cool down. So, thank you, and we'll see you next year at a undisclosed location.
Meet your favorite friend,
Yeah,
your favorite tree families. Yeah.
thank you.
Daniel.